Okay. I always enjoy reading it.
Yeah, there's actually there's a couple of good. There's an interesting article on well, it's on the county of El Dorado. County of El Dorado is probably the worst place to do development right now. But it was by the. And I know
Is it pretty accurate as far as this?
Well, he's talking about
details?
the arena and so forth, so he put a spin on that.
Okay.
He's built what? 2 more minutes.
By the way, thank you for the check to the city for the RSTP. I saw your signature on the $200,000.
Oh, really? Oh, I was gonna say.
Not you personally,
What
but
check?
the Transportation Commission.
Yeah, only a couple $100,000.
Just a couple. What's
Well, what's funny is the one that went to the county was 700. I was trying to switch them.
Good try. Look at this.
Well, you know, I remember you last
You
time.
open one. You got your pen on.
Oh yeah.
I gotta find. I have my classic pen, the smaller one.
The one, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
I
have that
pinned
one
it.
too. Okay, well, you know what? I may
Somewhere,
have an
I'm gonna have to dig that
I think
up.
I have an extra if you can't find it.
Okay. Yes.
Good evening, Placerville. It is 6 o'clock, October 8th, 2013, and it is my privilege to call to order the regular City Council meeting of the Placerville City Council. And tonight we have a very special, some special guests in our audience tonight. We have the Boy Scout Troop 460. And at this point I'd like to invite Spencer Nielsen up to the podium, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And then after that, I would like to request that everyone stand for a moment of silence in observance of the memory of Roy Carver, who was a retired city employee that worked for the city from 1970 to 2005. So please join us, and thank you, Spencer, for being here.
Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And in memory of Mr. Carver, Patty, I want you to share that story, what you shared with me about Mr. Carver and the 50th reunion.
Oh,
It's just a really sweet memory in honor of Roy.
well, it's secondhand to me, but this is what I was told. He graduated from El Dorado High School, and his class just had their 50th reunion, and he has been ill for some time, and it was my understanding he was in a care home. Now, I could be wrong on that. Maybe he was home. But anyway, he was bound determined that he was going to make it to his 50th class reunion and have his picture taken with the class. And my understanding is that they took him from the hospital to the reunion, which was over at Gordon and Renee Vicini's house. And he joined the class for a portion of the reunion, but he had his picture taken with the class. And it was shortly after that he passed. But he was just determined that he was going to make it to that 50th class reunion. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's Roy. So anyway, he was a great employee for the city for many, many years.
Thank you for sharing that. That's sweet. All right. With that, may we have the roll call, please, Mrs. Zito?
Councilmember Borelli.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hagan.
Here.
Councilmember Patton.
Here.
Mayor Thomas.
Here?
Councilmember Wilkins.
Here. Thank you. We now are on item 3, announcements and presentations to the public. In addition to welcoming Troop 460 here this evening, I'd also like to give a little shout out to Drew from El Dorado High, who's a senior and he's working on a government class. So we appreciate you being here tonight, Drew. Always nice to have our young people in the audience. And in addition to the troop, like to recognize the biggest Boy Scout back there, former Police Chief Nielsen. George, it's good to have you back in the house. Always nice to have you with us. All right. I have a couple announcements this evening. First, I'd like to give a big thank you to Susan and Rich Zito, Kelly from the Finance Department, Vice Mayor Hagan, and Lori Warden from the Placerville Kiwanis Club for once again supporting and working the Community Cleanup Day on, it was last Saturday. The 28th.
The 28th.
That's right, on the 28th. And it is my understanding that we had one of the biggest days ever. The community came out in force. Would like to thank El Dorado Transit for being patient with all the throngs of cars coming in. And it wouldn't have been possible without all of you volunteering your time to make that possible. And it's a wonderful community service. And I even understand that we had a slight casualty with Mr. Zito walking across piles of trash in the dumpster. He twisted his ankle and had to go to the Marshall emergency room. That's the bad news. The good news is, with our new emergency room, he was out of there in no time. And so thank you, Marshall. So thank you again for making that possible. Would also like to have everyone know that tomorrow is Walk to School 2013, and if you'd like to take part in that, it's always a fun thing to do to walk with families to school. You can meet between 8 and 8:30 at either the Ivy House parking lot or the Mosquito bus stop, and walk to school with the community. That's always a really fun thing. And for my final announcement, I do have a press release to read that we've given Wendy a copy for the Mountain Democrat. And it's, as Hangtown Haven has been an ongoing issue with the city, and I do have a press release for that. Hangtown Haven, the legal campground for homeless folks in transition, has been a pilot program in Placerville for the past year. The goal has been to test creative answers to this challenge, to figure out what works and what doesn't, while we work toward more permanent solutions in a collaborative effort with El Dorado County staff and the Board of Supervisors. As this council has stated from the beginning of Hangtown Haven, the temporary use permit will not extend beyond November 15th, 2013. This date was selected to coordinate with the opening of the 2013-2014 nomadic shelter season. We've learned a lot from Hangtown Haven, both successes and failures. These will benefit us as we move forward to create a better model. While the permit for Hangtown Haven will not be renewed, we have been diligently working on the next step, and tremendous progress has been made. Vice Mayor Hagan, City Manager Morris, and myself have been working with the county to move boldly forward in a coordinated effort. Currently, a team from the County Health and Human Services Agency is being assembled and will be available to start meeting next week with residents of the Haven to help them transition into the next phase of their life. We are also exploring options for day shelters to be open during this nomadic shelter season. The goal is to give folks a place to go during the day, to continue the sense of community evident in Hangtown Haven, and have a dedicated place for volunteer services. Finally, in addition to these immediate measures, the city and county are committed to working with members of the Haven and other interested parties to move forward on a more permanent solution for people in transition. The success of Hangtown Haven has made this possible, and we look forward to making meaningful progress on this issue. And Vice Mayor Hagan and City Manager Morris and I spent the morning with the leadership of Hangtown Haven, telling them this. And then I want to extend our thanks to Community Services Director Pierre Rivas and then Chief Heller for joining us. We went out to the camp this afternoon, and they needed to hear from us firsthand that we will not be renewing the temporary use permit. And I have to say that I know I expected maybe an angry crowd and some really hard interchanges, and we were met with grace and gratitude, and just very, very grateful for that. So, with that, we move on to closed session report. City Attorney Driscoll.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. Tonight, the council did not take reportable action in closed session.
Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Move for the adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda is adopted. Ceremonial matters, there are none. Public comment. First of all, before we get to oral communication, has there been any written communication?
Just the one item that your city clerk passed out to you regarding the thank you from Marshall Medical Center for our support of their recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month this month. And you notice the lights downtown and on the bell tower that have been displayed. So we have a thank you from them for the council.
For supporting that effort. Great, thank you. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Placerville City Council. State law prohibits the council from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. And if you'd like to address this council, please come forward, state your name, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council. My name is Patricia McNamara, and I am a city resident. I am approaching you tonight to raise your awareness to Assembly Bill 551, Chapter 406, which makes provisions for what they call urban agriculture incentive zones. And what this translates into is tax relief, tax incentive for residents with properties from 1/10 of an acre to 3 acres to apply and contract with city and county bodies for tax reduction if they dedicate a certain amount of land to growing food. And there are provisions and restrictions for what qualifies. It was just passed, I think, last month through all bodies and has been finalized. So my purpose in coming to you tonight is just to raise awareness and pose the question. Since the language contains city and county, that residents will contract with city and county, what is the handshake? What is the process? What is that relationship between city and county? Obviously, our taxes are assessed by the county. I wrote an email to the county too, to our assessor. Haven't heard back yet, but I imagine it comes as a surprise to him too. We live in a county of orchards and horse properties and lots of agriculture, and the idea of agriculture at the residential level probably hasn't risen too high in our communities. So that's my purpose here tonight, is to raise it as quickly as possible since the bill has passed, and pose the question to you, what will be your role, your process for working with the county? And you know how legislation is. They put it forward and then you figure out how to implement. So that's it.
Right. Thank you very much, Patricia, for bringing this to our attention.
Welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
We're back.
Glad you're back.
Hollis and Sue Henderson, we're the coordinators for El Dorado County Toys for Tots program. This is our 6th year?
Yes.
This is our
Well,
6th year.
we've been together 10 years.
But the Marine Corps League here in Placerville has been performing the Toys for Tots program this is their 33rd year. And we're looking forward to another 30 years. God forbid we should live that long. And I just wanted to make everybody aware that this is the official kickoff is 1 October for the foundation, but we don't really start ramping up until the middle of October, the first part of November. We'll start getting the toy boxes deployed to all the businesses here in the city and the county. And we're having a drivers meeting on October the 21st at the Veterans Hall. Anybody that's interested in attending to see a little bit about how Toys for Tots is organized and how we perform our routes and how we deploy the boxes and collect the toys. Anybody that's interested, feel free to come on by. We do a potluck and we make our famous homemade chili, and then folks bring a side dish and stuff, and we get a pretty good turnout. We can fill that Vets Hall.
Wow. And are you going to be doing a coordinated effort at the bell tower this year?
Yes.
Yes,
that
that's
was
going
the
to
next
be
thing.
December the 7th and 8th, and we did a photo shoot on Monday for the parade, and also
we
to
did it.
talk about that.
Mountain Democrat is the new
Can you speak in the
coordinator
microphone, Hollis, so we can
Okay.
hear you?
The
Thank you.
The Mountain Democrat, Mr. Richard Esposito, has taken over running the parade now. and the Pattersons are kind of in a transition and handing it over to Richard. And so the Mountain Democrat is going to be the coordinator, and they basically own the parade now. And we did a photo shoot. He had a photo shoot at 10 a.m. at the bell tower, excuse me, yesterday morning, and we got a pretty good little turnout. And we got some new banners that we're going to be putting up on the bell tower. And I was talking to the city manager. I understand we are allowed to put them up the 1st of November. Is that correct?
Something like that, or
Okay.
we'll talk.
We're working on that.
Okay.
Working on it.
All right. We'll get back to. We'll get when we could put them up whenever we can.
Our people call your people.
Oh, that's right. And actually, I have 2 families already contacting me for toys already, so, and which is a bit of a surprise on doing that. Last year, we took care of over 4,000 children for our community in El Dorado County with the help and partnership with the El Dorado Fire Department, because they are our other 50% on this to help us with the county. We've helping charities. We'll be again helping the police department with their kids. CHP will be going after them and foster kids, as well as some other programs here. And we are now finally proudly announced that we are going to be stepping back into South Lake Tahoe, and we made a connection up there with CHP and a couple nonprofit organizations. So we're going to be doing a soft opening finally for those kids up there, because I get quite a bit of phone calls from them. So this is going to be a big year. We go from 0 to 15,000 toys in 6 weeks. So every toy counts for us, and it's really important because Holly and I never turn kids away. Nope. Even Christmas last year, we got calls and we took care of kids. We didn't get a Christmas, but that was okay because we wanted to do something for the community, and we didn't know what to get for ourselves anyways, because we were both exhausted from the toy program.
Just a good night's sleep.
Yeah, that's basically that, a glass of wine, and we thought, tomorrow is, what was that? And it's like, it's the day after Christmas. No, we'll stay home and sleep. It's putting the stuff away. We do look for volunteers. We do look for toys. One toy, it makes a big difference to us because it does make a difference for a child. I do have business cards here, and if you didn't get one of our new chips, we just got them today. I want to make sure everybody has one. Now these are going to be a collector's item. There is a mistake on it. Uh-oh. If you find what the mistake is and email me, and if one of the first person doesn't gets it correctly, you'll get a T-shirt from us, okay? And you really want one of our
Good
T-shirts.
idea. There is actually an error on them.
There is an error.
She caught it.
Thank you so much. What a blessing you are to our community, and I know we will all support it, and thank everyone else for supporting your efforts.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the bell tower. Thank you for the rain last year for the parade.
So glad that worked out. Thank you so much. I gotta go shopping. Good evening.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be premature there. Evelyn Vierkamp, Placerville. I would like to comment on the September 10th meeting when the City Council ordered the removal of the Herrick Building roof sign. A couple of inaccuracies partially informed Council's decision, in my opinion, to order the sign removed. The first, there seems to have been a misplaced certainty concerning other businesses' compliance with the city's sign ordinance. For instance, one councillor stated that the laundromat's owners had, at huge expense, cut down the humongous sign pole, and now there's an awning with a big hole in it. When Sue Taylor said the pole still stood, she was corrected. In fact, as of yesterday, the humongous pole did still stand. And then there was a comment from a member of the public who serves on the Historic Advisory Committee. She asserted that the Herrick Building roof sign contravened Department of Interior standards and Lincoln Highway guidelines. I tried to find support for her support in her references for that particular assertion, and singularly failed, though I could find the references. So 3 weeks ago, I asked the Historic Advisory Committee for assistance. So far, all I have from Joanne Rogers is her own statement. I misspoke at the City Council meeting. However, at that meeting, Council seemed to regard her thumbs down on the sign as being authoritative. I knew I would not be able to say this word, and I insisted on putting it in this written document. I had 4 or 5 other words which I insisted on using big word for. So let me just go back to my 4 or 5 words if I can remember them. On tonight's agenda, it notes that the first reading of the Clay Street Project EIR is tentatively scheduled for the next City Council meeting. However, back in April and May, we were led to believe that design workshops would precede the EIR. That has not happened. Why? And if and when workshops eventually are held, will public input even matter, or have the fundamental decisions already been made? In all of this, the unifying theme is accountability. Decisions concerning Placerville residents and businesses must be based upon accurate information that is readily available to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address this council? Good evening, Mr. Batchelor. We haven't seen you in a while.
Put that there. With the older you
All
get,
right.
the faster time goes by. Madam Mayor, council members, first of all, if you people have any control over that sign that's on Highway 50 above Smith Flat, let's get rid of that lease. That's as bad as the ones, that's worse than the ones down the road. The Bunny Ranch can move to Nevada. Of course, they're already there. The main reason I'm here is that the interchange of Jake Way with Highway 50 has opened the door for the homeless into Smith Flat, and they have arrived. We're having break-ins. The Smith Flat house has been broken into twice in the last couple of weeks. We had a robbery on Jake Way. I'm seeing people coming past my house that you know don't belong. They're not the hikers or the walkers. You used to be able to walk the rail trail and you see a little deer trail coming in from the side. You could go up it and see if there was a gold mine or whatever, and now you're greeted by a dog and somebody camping. I guess the police department here has been doing a good job in rousting these guys, so they're coming over to where the sheriff is, and they're not so swift, I guess. There's been 3 break-ins from what I gather in the Gulch as well, and the only thing that we can really do on our end of it is to form a neighborhood watch, and the county sheriff has agreed with Mr. Conforti that we'll have such a meeting at the Smith Flat House in the near future, and the local people are invited as well because some of them are going to be your city residents. And the main thing that's happening, and I'm saddened to hear that the Hangtown Haven is being bounced out. Some of their neighbors probably have put pressure on you to make that happen, but I think it's been a positive thing all the way around. And I'm afraid to say this because I'm going to offend a lot of people. I feel that the upper room has become too much of a draw for the homeless. And I would like to shut the place down for 60 days and just let these guys all float back to the rock they came out from under. That's the big draw. The old bus station is another big draw. And I would like to see Hangtown stay and those other outfits go for a little while, because they're the ones that are bringing in the undesirables. And I don't think that it's going to get any better. Mr. Hagan mentioned that you make it too nice, the next thing you know, you're going to have them all up here. And all the notoriety that's been in the press and whatnot, it gets out there, and they're coming in groves. I came to this meeting about 45 minutes ago, and there were 3 guys standing in front of the hardware store down there with backpacks and 6 weeks of beards. You know they're not locals. They're on their way up the hill. This afternoon, I saw a guy on a bicycle with a great big backpack going up the road. and they're coming in, you know. I don't think the snow's going to run them off or the rain's going to run them off.
You can wrap up your comments, Barry.
Yeah. I'm all done. How about that? You got sharp eyes. Thank you much, but I appreciate, whatever input we can do to make it happen. I know the people at the soup kitchen, I think they're getting fed up with some of these guys themselves.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening. Sue Rodman, Placerville resident. I have a little different agenda tonight. I picked up one of the Help Us Build the Monument Garden project flyers, and I went over to look at the site, and I looked at the way it's laid out here, and I have a real concern. In the bottom, we have a picture of the Vietnam plaques, but if you look at the way this monument garden is laid out, the Vietnam plaques are sort of shunted off to the side, just like we've done with all our Vietnam veterans ever since that war began. I would like to see that Vietnam memorial as part of the main part of the memorial garden instead of being tossed off over around the corner where, well, somebody might find it, but probably not.
Actually, there's a strong reason why, I'd like to address that just very briefly, that the plaques were always meant to be on Main Street. And so that garden is specifically designed so the Vietnam plaques stay on Main Street. And they are very consciously placed there. It's not discarded off to the side, so they will continue to be a part of our historic downtown. So that is the reasoning behind that. And
they just look very much like they're out to the side and not really part of the monument garden.
And it certainly, if you have further comments on that, talk to Community Pride about that as a garden moves forward.
Yes,
that is the reasoning. So
there could be a way to blend these in, and it isn't done in this scheme.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else for public comment? Oh, I'm sorry, Susan. Did you have your hand up? Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. I didn't even see you back there.
No, that's okay. I was just going to also add that the monument itself is illuminated. There's underlighting, and so it'll be quite prominent on Main Street, I can assure you. And we went through this with the different veterans groups, and that design was in 3 different public workshops and came before City Council twice.
Great. Thank you for that clarification, Steve. All right, sorry about that. Good evening. Please state your name for the record.
Gina Hale, Placerville resident, over 7 years, Upper Broadway, very close to the Hangtown Haven. So I'm going to bounce back to that issue. I'm really happy to hear that Hangtown Haven is going away. It's been a living nightmare the last couple of years. It's been completely ridiculous. It's just been awful. The homeless have turned the entire city into Lumsden Park. They are using the city as a public toilet and a garbage dump. I see people on a regular basis doing laundry and bathing in Smith Flat Creek along Smith Flat Road, very close to the overpass right there at Smith Flat and Broadway. And this isn't just once or twice. I've seen this several times. They're actually using shampoo, soap, the whole 9 yards. They're not just sitting in the creek to rinse off or whatnot. I don't understand why the homeless camp is even here. I don't know of a homeless camp anywhere else in the county. These people don't want help. They want their free meals that they get every day at Hangtown Motel from the groups that come in. These groups come in, they're there for 2 minutes, they drop off the food, and then they peel out. And we're there to deal with the people, their garbage, their litter, using the bottom of our driveway as a public bathroom. I've called the Public Works Department several times over the summer when this all really came to a head. There's still all that garbage down there in the blackberry bushes between the Creekview liquor store and our property. I called them again last week and never heard a response. So I don't know what's going on there, but it is disgusting down there. There's furniture down there. There's a chair down there. There's old booth cushion from when Jed's got whatever they did with Jed's over there, that old restaurant. There's pornographic magazines down there. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's horrific. So I'm really glad to hear that it's going away, because I feel like what's it going to take? Is it going to take a huge fire? I mean, people are setting fires, illegal fires up on the bike trail because of where we are. I have a clear view of the bike trail, and I had to call the fire department 2 or 3 Saturdays ago because I saw smoke over there. So it's like I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone or something. It's like, what's it going to take? Is it going to take people to get murdered? Is it going to take a child to get killed? I mean, is it going to take a fire to take out half the town for this to go away? So that's why I'm here. And I just had another question. Is Hangtown Haven being moved to another location, or are they just done for good? So that was my last.
Okay. Hangtown Haven is closing. It's not moving in its current state. So, and we can't have a back and forth discussion. I'd be happy to talk with you, after the council meeting. But I would like to state that I'm so sorry that you've been, negatively impacted. I know it's been a real challenge for you on Upper Broadway, and we will continue to work with our law enforcement, with the county, with the sheriff, to work on this issue. And I'm sorry that it has impacted you in such a way. Is there anyone else that would like to address this council? All right, with that, I'll close public comment, and we will move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. Any council member wish to do so?
I'd like to remove
Okay.
8.6.
8.6, all right.
And I have no problem with it. I just really think that it's something that the public needs to hear.
Okay, great. We will pull 8.6. Any other changes to the consent calendar? All right. Does any member of the public wish to comment?
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
I think I would like to pull 8.4 and have a
8.4.
discussion about that one.
Okay. 8.4 and 8.6, great. Does any member of the public wish to comment on any item on the consent calendar? No? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion?
A move for the, that we accept all except 8.4 and 8.6.
Second.
All right. May we have the roll call vote, please?
Did Councilmember Patton second?
Yes, she did. I'm so
Thank you.
sorry, Susan.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hagan?
Aye.
Councilmember Patton?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye. All right, great, and we will get back to those items on item number 13. Ordinances, none scheduled. Public hearings, none. With that, we are on item 11, the discussion action items on 11.1, and that is to authorize and appoint a Measure H sales tax committee to an ad hoc subcommittee with the addition of Dennis Thomas to review and make recommendations regarding the city's parking program. Mr. Morris, I know you've been working on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you recall, in our budget process this last spring, we mentioned and
Actually, I just realized, should I step down on this issue? Yes, I need to recuse myself because my husband is Dennis Thomas. So with that, I'll be back.
You know,
You're up.
I have a question too. Aaron Harder is one of my tenants. Do I need to recuse myself or just not vote for him?
He's not there anymore.
He's not, he's leaving. He's
closed his business,
he's
right?
closed his business, so,
Still a tenant?
well, he will be till the end of the month. But he's given me his, that he's leaving. He's given me his notice.
Probably should not vote on this until he's no longer in any sort of financial relationship with you.
Okay.
You should recuse yourself, too.
I'll
Yeah.
go keep Wendy company.
Okay.
Well, the good news is I don't have any conflict of interest with these people, so we'll go back to the discussion. If you can go ahead and start with 11.1.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor Hagan. As I noted, during our budget process, we noted that our parking fund is in a deficit and has been for the last couple of years, I believe, or close to it. And a more disturbing fact is that we're not setting aside any funding for routine maintenance and not just routine maintenance, but other things that are coming up, such as our parking meters, things like resurfacing our parking lots and any structural work that might be required in the future on our parking garage. No funding is being set aside for that, and we're more and more concerned what is going to happen in that area if we don't do something to address that issue. So what we recommended during the budget process was that we appoint a committee, parking committee, to look at the issue and come up with ways to address that so that we can shore that problem and provide the maintenance for our parking facilities as is necessary. We looked at different ways of doing that and what the parking committee might could be, and staff, in looking at the accomplishments and the good work that the Measure H committee did and the makeup of that committee, felt that it may be appropriate to use them as the parking committee, with perhaps a couple of additions from the previous members who were primarily made up of PDA membership. So with that, our recommendation tonight is that the council consider that, using the parking committee to review that issue, and I outlined some things that we would like them to look at, the effectiveness of the current parking program, what are the funding needs for the program, and then review and recommend infrastructure needs as well as the funding for that, and then making sure that our current revenue sources and new revenue sources are put to the best use for our parking program. Just to go through quickly, let me mention, in the staff report, we recommended and named the members of the Measure H committee, and then we added Dennis Thomas, who has in the past been the chair of the parking committee on several instances when they have gone through the process of looking what needed to be done. So he has a lot of history of what is going on there and what needs to be done there, and can give that background for the committee. As I've looked at and talked to since I wrote this report, I realized that it may be best to appoint the Measure H committee, but not by name, because there likely will be some changes. It was just noted that Aaron Harder is no longer operating his business, so is no longer a business owner, and will probably need to be replaced on the Measure H committee coming up within the next few months here. So our recommendation is that you still look at the Measure H committee, and you can recommend that you include the alternate to that committee also. The alternate currently is Art Edwards. I didn't name him in here, but he is the alternate to the committee. But I would recommend that you include him also, and then but just include the Measure H committee with the addition of Dennis Thomas, and if there are other PDM members that perhaps you would like to appoint to the committee at this time, we could add those at this time to the committee if you would like to. So with that, that's our recommendation. We're open to discussion and questions on that.
So, Carol, you have a question?
Well, my recommendation would be, that rather than the council appoint someone, is to have PDA appoint a representative, because I think they would be in the best position to say who would represent them the most. I would just put out that the president of the Downtown Association should sit on that committee. It's really an important piece of the downtown puzzle, but it is more than just the Downtown Association's. I mean, it's a city-controlled asset, and I think bringing in the Measure H committee is a great idea, and perhaps not naming them is how I would, but I would definitely have a PDA representative on it.
Okay. Other than
Mhm.
Dennis, okay.
Or including Dennis.
I mean, including Dennis.
Right.
Right.
In addition to Dennis.
Yeah, right. In addition to. Thanks for the
Thanks
correction.
for the-
Grammar correction. Got somebody here that can do that. And the question I had then, could we maybe name a couple of PDA members along with the full Measure H committee that are willing to serve, so that we can have a couple more on there. So from that business perspective, from the individuals that are most affected by that.
Right.
So a couple of them, so a total of 3 from the
That'd
PDA.
make it a committee of 9, that's a lot.
Well, up to 9. So they don't all have to attend all the meetings. But the Measure H committees, it could be interested parties from the Measure H committee. Let me put it that way. Maybe that's a way to.
Well, we have spoken to the Measure H committee, and all of them have expressed interest.
Okay.
With the exception of maybe Aaron, he recognizes that he may, but I think he would be okay doing it if he's still on the committee. But all of them, I believe, have expressed interest. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes, Mr. Morris. Aaron, Mr. Harder recognized that now that he closed his business, he's no longer eligible to participate in the Measure H committee. However, he has offered up his services to be a member of the parking committee, if you would like.
If you desire, yeah.
So, okay. All right, at this point then I'll open it for public comment. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the dais. We have a motion.
Well, I'd make a motion that we authorize and appoint the Measure H committee, including Dennis, with the addition of Dennis Thomas, and no more than 3, but no less than 1. I just think, I'm sorry, I think that a committee of 9 can be really cumbersome.
Right.
So, but anyways, I'm willing to go with 3 PDA members plus Dennis.
Or how about just the president of the, and then she can gather the input at the meetings that she would need and bring it back to the committee?
It's he right now, but.
Is he?
No, it's a she
It's
right
she.
now,
Oh,
but it could be he.
changes.
Yeah, he
I
or she.
think, I mean, that, I'd be willing to amend the motion to say the president or their appointee, if you guys want to do that.
That sounds good.
Okay, then I'll amend my motion to say, as written, with Dennis Thomas and the president of the Downtown Association or their representative.
I'll second.
Okay. That was call for the question. Carol moved. Trish second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Reads that it passed. Can we get,
Call in the two.
for 11.2, can we get the rest of the council, please? Thank you.
All right, we're on item 11.2. Adopt a resolution approving the bi-monthly sewer charge discounts as presented in attachment A to the staff report. Mr. Warren, you're up. Discounts, we love discounts.
Yes, we do.
Bring
Everyone
it
loves
on.
a discount. Thank you, Mayor Thomas and council. As you know, each spring, the Measure 8 Sales Tax Committee makes recommendations to the City Council for the use of Measure 8 sales tax revenues for the following fiscal year. One of the committee's first recommendations was the creation of a sewer charge discount based on an equitable and responsible formula back in 2011. The City Council approved the current sewer charge discounts as recommended by the committee that became effective April 16, 2011. Since the inception of the sewer charge discounts, the city has raised its sewer rates twice over the past 2 years in order to make the full debt service payments on the 2006 State Revolving Fund loan, beginning this past September. During its deliberations this past spring, the committee questioned how the 2 rate increases had affected the overall value of the discount program to ratepayers, and recommended the discounts be evaluated and recommendations be provided to the City Council this fall, hence tonight's item. The City Council received the committee's recommendations for fiscal year 2013-14, including the evaluation of the discount program during its budget deliberations in June, and directed the committee to perform the evaluations as recommended. The committee has completed its evaluation of the discounts and has recommended certain adjustments to the original discount formula. As part of the evaluation process, staff refreshed the discount analysis with fiscal year 12-13 sewer charge data and the original formula as shown in Table B of your report. As you can see in Table E, the discount amounts for residential categories have remained the same, while the amounts for some non-residential or commercial categories have changed using the fiscal year 12-13 sewer charge data. For example, the discounts for bars decreased from $90 to $45, while the discount for car washes increased from $90 to $175 every 2 months. The committee also considered the value of the current discounts as compared to sewer charges at varying levels. And what we mean by that is somebody just at base charge, do they have paid consumption charges, do they receive the lifeline discount, so on and so forth. So in considering the value of the current discounts as compared to sewer charges at varying levels, if you look at tables C and D, residential discounts are compared to residential sewer rates effective October 16, 2009, August 16, 2012, and August 16, 2013. As you can see, the current discounts represented between 8.29% and 13.9% of sewer charges at varying levels at the October 16, 2009 rate. As a comparison, the current discounts represent 7.47 to 12.57% of sewer charges at varying levels using the rates that will become effective August 16th, or have become effective August 16, 2013. Based on this information, the committee concluded that the erosion to the residential discounts due to the past 2 sewer rate increases are not significant enough to justify further modification to the discount formula. After reviewing this analysis and discussing its options, the committee recommended that the residential discounts remain the same through the remainder of this fiscal year. In regards to non-residential categories or commercial, the committee took a better or hold approach to them. And the committee recommended that the greater of the current discounts and the discounts calculated using the 1213 sewer charge data be applied to non-residential categories for the remainder of this fiscal year. And they're shown in, again, Table E. And so basically in the non-residential, they either remain the same or they go up based on that analysis. So everybody at least gets the same discount they've been getting in the past. If approved, the new discounts would become effective August 16, 2013, and would be used to calculate the utility charges beginning with the November 10th bills. The total full exposure cost of the sewer charge discount program, and what I mean by full exposure is if all of our homes and businesses were occupied and everybody's paying fees, which doesn't always happen, we have vacancies and changes in businesses, so on and so forth. The cost would be $517,835 for this fiscal year. Staff forecasts the actual cost of the discount program for this fiscal year would be closer to $482,000 based on experience and recent trends. The adopted budget included a $471,019 appropriation for the discount program, or $46,816 less than the $517,000 full exposure cost. And staff recommends the City Council approve the additional $46,000 budget appropriation from the Measure H fund and adopt the proposed sewer charge discounts as presented. As a side discussion, one of the recommendations adopted by the committee at its meeting held on May 30th was to set aside approximately $427,000 in unassigned Measure H sales tax fund balance for future uses until the outcome of the city's recent applications for the federal CDBG grant, state water conservation or CABI grant, and the evaluation of the sewer charge discounts were known this fall. We recently received notice that the CDBG grant application for the Coloma Street, Conrad Street, Cottage Street area waterline replacement project was unfortunately not awarded. Staff is evaluating its funding options, including resubmitting its application during the next available CDBG funding cycle and or phasing the project with a combination of grants and Measure H funds. We're pleased to report that the city was awarded, as you know, the $950,000 CABI grant for the construction of the Party Lane, Big Cut Road, Sacramento Street waterline replacement project. And a big thanks to our city engineer, Nate Stong, as well as the El Dorado County Water Agency for their efforts in securing the grant. Staff has determined that the combination of the $115,000 already spent on the PS&E phase and the $425,000 in Measure H fund balance that is currently set aside as cash in the bank for the project are adequate in meeting the city's $491,000 or 34% local match for the grant. So the committee tentatively is planning on meeting in November to develop recommendations for the remaining approximately $400,000 in forecasted Measure H fund balance that has not been appropriated. And the said recommendations will be presented to the City Council for your consideration at a later date.
Great.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warren, and just once again offer our congratulations, Nate, for all your good work in garnering almost $1 million for this project. And think it's absolutely wonderful that because of the Measure H Committee's efforts and that initiative, that we have matching grant fund money to take advantage of those opportunities. So that's just terrific. So at this point, does any member of the council have any questions for staff on this item? All right. With that, I'll open up to the public. Does any member of the public wish to speak on this item? All right. I'll close public comment and just once again want to thank our Measure H committee for their excellent work in this really important part of our city. So bring it back to the council for further discussion and action.
I'll move the recommendation.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Hagan and seconded by Councilmember Wilkins. Let's see. With that, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Borelli.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hagan.
Aye.
Councilmember Patton.
Aye.
Mayor Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. With that, we're on item 12, council member reports and requests for future agenda items. And I will start to my left, Vice Mayor Hagan.
It seems like I've been working on the Hangtown Haven homeless project for the last 2 weeks.
You have.
And I believe also I had a SACOG meeting also in a lot of transportation. We did move a couple $100,000 from the Transportation Commission to the city coffers the other day on a project, and I forget which one it was. Dave, I just signed the check. I don't remember. That was about 2 weeks ago. Okay. So a couple $100,000 it was for.
It's not official.
It's not official?
Just keep those checks coming, Carl.
No, there was a transportation check that I signed that you got.
That's our annual RSTP funds that we receive. Yeah.
All right, so it's no big deal. It's just the standard stuff we always get every year.
Keep up the good work.
So I signed the check. But that's one of the things I do for the Transportation Committee is look at a number of different paperworks and meetings. And I know I had a couple of other local meetings with the Transportation Committee.
I saw you at the recycling.
I was there.
You helped out with that.
All day.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Seemed like all day.
Councilmember Wilkins.
I got several bags of garbage out of my garage and took them to the community cleanup day on the 28th.
I
And
think she unloaded her own truck.
I did. Did you see me?
Yes.
Yes, I did. I unloaded my own. My husband stayed in the car while I unloaded. And also, I'm looking forward to the iWalk tomorrow, the walk to school. I'm going to be at the Mosquito Road, and we're going to walk to school, and then I'll try to walk my little 3-year-old back, but hopefully it won't be too rainy, but I'm looking forward to that, and that's a good program.
Thank you.
That is a great project. If you have an opportunity to go to iWalk, at either one of the things, if you have kids, bring them. If you just like to see a lot of great school kids that are excited about doing something a little different, it's good for our community, and it's good for the kids to get out and do a little bit of a walk to school. I know that the parents have to get there a little bit early, but they don't get there as early as I do.
It's a fun program.
It is fun.
It is.
It's fun watching all those little kids. Like he said, they're so excited, and they form a human school bus, and they walk.
You can have some really fun conversations with them on the way to school. Councilmember Borelli.
Well, I went to Auburn and then on to Nevada City for a SEDCOR meeting. I went to CDAC meeting. Helped out with a couple of days with the Boys and Girls Foundation fundraiser. Attended the Women's Fund dinner. And I went to the EID 10-year celebration at Sly Park.
That was nice, wasn't it?
That was beautiful.
It was.
They did a great job. It was their, they were commemorating the transfer of the Sly Park unit from the United States Bureau of Reclamation to the El Dorado Irrigation District. And they've just done a phenomenal job, and we're lucky that it all happened.
And because EID owns it, that park is open
It's
for
open.
your use because the federal government doesn't control it. So that's
right.
pretty awesome right here in our own backyard. So you can go to Slay Park and walk around and picnic
There
and
you
boat.
go.
And El Dorado County is still open for business,
Right.
even though Washington isn't. So,
Right.
all right.
That's it.
Councilmember Patton.
Yeah, well, I went to a LAFCO meeting, and we actually finally got through the CalPERS
Oh, jeez.
agreement. Man, what a nightmare that was. And I wanted to just mention really quickly the iWalk. I don't know how many of the council or how many of the public have had a chance to walk up the new sidewalk going up to Sierra School, but it's really a huge improvement, and I've recently just walked up there and thought that was great. But one thing I wanted to bring up, I was listening to NPR the other day, and they talked about a program called House Nashville, and it is a new program that they've been doing to house their homeless people. And they have called on the private citizens, the landlords of the area who have open housing apartments, and they agree to rent no more than 1 or 2 it's all on a handshake. There's no mandate, but they rent their vacant dwelling units to homeless people for only as much as the homeless person gets from their HUD check. So the landlord is still gets some income out of it from a vacant unit, but the homeless person, now what that does, and I've worked on inclusionary housing rules and stuff, and looked at how when you integrate one family or one person into a community rather than putting all the homeless in one area, all of a sudden that one person, they're living in an apartment dwelling unit where people wash their hair and they brush their teeth and they go to work, and it makes a huge difference where if you live in a community where everyone is the same, then you don't necessarily strive to get to be any different. So I think it's an alternative. It has been working in Nashville, and I would hope that the county, city, whoever's in those programs could maybe at least look into it, because like I said, it's not mandated, and it's house, it's HOW''S. So it's a kind of play on words on how they're dealing with their homeless. And I thought it very innovative, and instead of a government handout, it was a way of the public taking the private enterprise.
Which we kind of did with our little camp.
We did, but the city, well, I understand what you're saying. Anyways, this isn't driven by government. This is driven by private industry, and I think that's really what will help us, what will answer this problem of these basic outcasts. Yeah, it's getting a few here and there, spread like Jenna was saying, having the camp there and having the upper room and having the mission. I know we wrestled with that. All in the same place, that becomes a problem because you basically have an attractive nuisance and you attract more. So anyways, just how's Nashville?
Thank you so much. We'll definitely look into that as we explore all options. Excellent. And I guess the main thing I would like to bring forward is I had our annual meeting of the Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Program. We just meet once a year, and kind of interesting that, yeah, it is exciting. I know. This year, the city of Placerville, we only abated 3 vehicles, Tahoe 22, El Dorado County 155, and in 2012, we abated 7. So it's not a huge issue. And yet, I know we have some big issues on Union Street. And so I thank our police department and the city staff for continuing to look at those vehicle issues on Union Street. And I have to also warn you, Chief, that, that the Tahoe Police Association officers have been administering this program for the last 7 years, and they were wanting to pass the buck this year to our police department to administer this program. And I bought you a year, because I says, we're in the middle of transition, so can you please administer the program, for 1 more year, but next year we're going to be looking for an officer to administer this program and take it over from Tahoe. So I gave you a year's warning. All right.
Wendy, I have to just say I had a reason to call our police department and report what I thought was an abandoned vehicle. Boy, they got on it and took care of it immediately.
Great.
So,
yeah, we'll appreciate all your efforts on that. So thank you. And that's all I have for right now. So items pulled for the consent calendar. Let's address 8.4. And who pulled 8.4? Carol? Councilmember Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to have the entire council listen to Community Services Director Rivas and when talking about the EIR and the differences between a full-blown EIR, a mitigated negative deck, and a focused EIR as it relates to another bridge project in our community.
I think that's an excellent idea. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Rivas.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I would direct your attention to the exhibit in the staff report. It was prepared by Quincy, and the page isn't numbered, but work your way to task 8.3 and then task 8.4. That's where part of the task that Quincy will be providing for the city is preparation of environmental documents. And so under the CEQA process, which stands for the California Environmental Quality Act, the first task in preparing an environmental document is what we call an initial study. And the initial study is just that. They're going to prepare the initial study and determine if there's any impacts associated with a bridge replacement project that may cause a significant impact on the environment. If not, if we're able to determine that all the impacts could be mitigated, then, and the assumption is it will proceed with a mitigated negative declaration.
And what does mitigated mean?
Mitigated means that if there's a potential impact, say, we're talking about a bridge replacement, so you're looking at the potential impacts primarily to Hangtown Creek, to the creek environment. So sediments from construction activities and the like. And so there will be a lot of different protocols, not to mention that there will be stream bed alteration permits from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. There will be permits from the Corps of Engineers because it's waters of the U.S. There will be also permits from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And so staff is in agreement with the assumption stated by Quincy that the chances are we're not going to find that this project would have a significant impact on the environment and thus necessitate the preparation of an EIR. But if you look at the proposal, the way it's written, you know, we don't know at this point in time. It's just an assumption. And so what it says here, and I'll just go ahead and read it, should one or more impacts be identified as significant and unavoidable, thus necessitating the preparation of an environmental impact report, a separate scope of work and budget can be prepared for the alternative environmental documentation. And so I guess what I want to point out is, you know, we don't need to, you know, be too hasty as to what exactly the environmental document, the appropriate environmental document will be. We'll have to go through the process, meaning the initial study will be circulated to the public and concerned agencies. They will then comment on that document, and if there's a flaw in our findings, you know, somebody out there is going to let us know, and we can always then either further attempt to mitigate, or we can do what I would call a focused EIR. Meaning I don't think the project is going to cause any impacts on air quality, for example, because removing that pinch point is probably going to allow traffic to flow better. I think, you know, many of the impacts with regards to traffic are going to be an improvement because it's a gross safety hazard right now. Pedestrians have a hard time traveling across that bridge. And so, you know, from an environmental standpoint, I think we're just going to go through the process, and we'll have to wait and see until we get to that point after circulation of the document whether or not, or what the appropriate environmental document will be. And before you council will take action on the actual project, then you will have to adopt the mitigated negative declaration and then approve of the mitigation monitoring program, which is now required under CEQA as well. So we have to demonstrate then that we have a program in place to fully implement any of the mitigation measures that will be identified in that environmental document. And so if it is determined by your council that you want to do a focused EIR, you do have that option that you feel that there is a significant impact, and then we can proceed on that particular way. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for explaining that process. Does any council member have any further questions for staff? No. Does any member of the public wish to comment on this item? Once again, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. Good evening again.
Sue Rodman. This is a bridge we really, really need to do. It's needed it for a long time. When I read the report and found out that it was actually supposed to have been part of the original widening of Placerville Drive in about, 96? And we're now in 2013. I was appalled, to be honest, and I think that this is one we really need to put full effort to get done.
Thank you. You have a comment?
I do have a comment, and maybe, John, you can tell more. And probably, Pierre, you remember, too, when all this was going on about the widening, and the question on that bridge was it was 2 lanes. And we found out that if we went ahead with the 2 lanes, that in the future we could, if needed to be widened, we couldn't apply for any kind of funding. And so that was kind of one of the delays we had. There were a lot of pushback from folks on Placerville Drive. I remember what a big boondoggle this was. But you see, I guess why I'm bringing all this up is that it paid off to wait, because now we're going to get the 4 lanes the way it should have, been in the first place. And so, but if you want to tell all the details or something.
I guess the only thing I would add is, the bridge will accommodate the 4 lanes and also accommodate pedestrian travel over the bridge.
Right.
Extremely important.
A lot more than what those 2 lanes
And
would have
bikes.
done, and so.
And excuse me, you're right. Had we have constructed the 2-lane bridge using the federal funds, and then, as we found out, it really needed to be a 4-lane bridge, we could not have gone back and gotten federal funds again.
Right.
So
it was.
So it was worth the wait.
It was worth the wait.
Any other member of the public wish to comment on this? All right, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the council for action.
I'd like to add one more point, and that is
Yes.
that this is one of the programs that when we did the multimodal study on Placerville Drive, where this was identified as the options that were available that would make sense to make this 4 lanes. So the justification actually came from the multimodal study, I believe. Which
With
is
a lot of community involvement in that.
Right.
Right. Great.
But there were some people that were not happy that we delayed it.
Right.
Right.
All right. Any other comments? Do I hear a motion?
Move for adoption.
Second.
And let's see, we don't need a roll call vote on this? Yes, we do. We
Yeah,
do.
we
All
do.
right. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hagan?
Aye.
Councilmember Patton?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Thank you. With that, we're on item 8.6, adopt a resolution approving addendum number 4 to the agreement with Quincy Engineering for the Blair's Lane Bridge replacement at Hangtown Creek. And Councilmember Borelli, I believe you pulled this?
I did, and as I stated, again, I would like to bring forward what we went through to make this happen and why it has taken so long, because a lot of, every once in a while you hear negative comments about why the city's dragging its feet and why does it take so long. I just think this is maybe it's not it was something that would happen all the time, but I just want to bring forth why it took so long. So I don't know who's going to tell us the story. Nate?
Well, I thought you were. I was going to.
You're up, Nate. Hug.
Sure, I'd be glad to share a little bit of history on the project. This one started later than Placerville Drive Bridge, 2006, I believe. Following the approval of the Eschaton development, it became known that it could be eligible for federal funding. So it helped the developer somewhat, and they agreed to fund a local match for this project, and we were successful in applying for that funding, and it's been in the program. So the major delays with this project started somewhat concurrent with the recession, late 2008, 2009. We were in right-of-way acquisition mode, and a very small portion of one of the parcels, which is actually up East Broadway a little bit. It's a flag-shaped parcel, comes back along the creek and comes near in the bridge vicinity. So it's not useful to that parcel's property, but nonetheless has to go through the federal right-of-way acquisition procedures, appraisal, offers, the gamut, and the appraisal showed a nominal value, $500, something like that, and due to complications with the owner and bankruptcy and a number of other factors, there were difficulties in having that owner agree to the purchase offers, and we 6 months ago, started the eminent domain process and have now culminated with a prejudgment order through the courts. So we've attained possession of that piece. So right-of-way is near complete. There's one parcel left to acquire from, and that's the Caltrans maintenance yard, and that is in process, and no difficulties are anticipated with that. But right-of-way has been a real challenge on this bridge, combined with the utility relocation The design of those utilities has also been a challenge with the scenic corridor, questions about how the scenic corridor is defined, and we've come up with, thanks to ex-mayor Kuna working at PG&E, a workable design, and the changes there also had ramifications on the right-of-way acquisition, different easements, different locations. So there's a little brief history on where this project has been, and
You know, I'm always in favor of underground if we can do it, because I've seen, you know, how nice it's been on what we have done. So would this have been better to do undergrounding, or was it a cost factor, or what was?
it's certainly more attractive to underground facilities. It was not. It was questioned by, you know, the party writing the local match checks, or actually the developer is funding the utility relocation. So if not required to be undergrounded, then
Okay.
he has the overhead relocation option.
That's another thing I was going to ask. Do we have a built-in requirement that any new projects are underground? I know when we did
Often
Main
we
Street.
do. There are utility underground, you know, districts,
Right.
and they would be required there. This is
Okay.
outside of the district, just outside. Broadway is an underground district, but Blair's Lane is not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Does any member of the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing done, I'll bring it back to the council for motion.
I so move.
Second.
Then moved by Councilmember Borelli, seconded by Vice Mayor Hagan. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hagan?
Aye.
Councilmember Patton?
Aye.
Mayor Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye. Well, nice to see those two bridge projects moving forward. And with that, we are on item number 14, city manager and staff reports.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a couple of things I want to mention. They've already been mentioned slightly under our sewer discount report, and that is the two grants that we've learned, that we've obtained over the last couple of weeks. First one, Dave Warren mentioned the $950,000 grant we've got for the water line replacement up on Big Cut, and we're excited about that one. We'll get moving on that as quickly as we can, right, Nate?
That's great.
We still need to get some, actually that one, there's still one more approval process, but with the state, but it's pretty much there, so. And the other one I want to mention, Dave mentioned also, was our CDBG grant. Unfortunately, that one we did not get. A water grant, a water line replacement would have been on Cottage, Coloma, and Conrad streets. And unfortunately, we were not successful in that one due to a technicality, I guess I can say, that we're pretty upset about. But however, as part of that CDBG grant, I wanted to announce that we were successful in receiving a $250,000 housing rehab grant. And so we will be moving forward with that. It will probably become available about in January. We expect that funding will become available. We're working out the details of how we're going to market that and make that money available to the public. But we've had that in the past, and that housing rehab grant program will be available again starting about in January.
So what is the gist of that program? I mean, what does that mean to our citizens?
What it means is you actually come in and apply. Dave, help me out here because I haven't, or Pierre. You apply for a loan slash, well, it's a loan through the city, but it's generally deferred until under certain conditions. You have to meet low and moderate income requirements to qualify for that. But it made available for improvements to your homes. We've already got a couple of requests we were aware of regarding roofs that people might want to do under this program, and we'll look at others in the future. Dave, anything you want to add to that?
I think you covered pretty well. There's just a couple points. Typically, the program's used to help folks that don't normally qualify for conventional lending loans. And it can actually be, the monies can be paid back two ways. One, in monthly monthly payments, or upon sale of the property or refinancing of the property at a later date.
And is there a maximum that folks can apply to, or is that part of the details to be worked out?
Those need to be worked out.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Well, that's exciting opportunity. Thank you.
But it is always a loan. It's not ever a grant.
It is a loan, as I don't think it's ever a grant. Is that correct, Dave?
No, it is a loan. It eventually has to be paid back.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, with that, on upcoming items, before I go through the list, City Manager Morris, would you mind kind of explaining the upcoming item on the Clay Street project? Because we had a question from the audience
Sure.
about that, so I'd like to clarify that.
The question came up, and we had mentioned that we were going to do these design workshops. Our plan and moving forward, and Pierre is working on this, is to do those in conjunction with the EIR, because we will be gathering that information. During the EIR, we'll have more information available. We also, under our EIR contract, we have, there is a public outreach portion of that will allow us to gather even more information. I think it'll provide a better and excellent opportunity to actually do that design and those design workshops and get the information out to the public. So, Pierre, anything, does that pretty much describe it? Anything you want to add?
I think Mr. Morris, for the most part, covered them. Probably one of the key features is the agreement with PMC provides for that public outreach, as was directed by the council, and I think that was probably a meeting back a year ago that we would have these workshops with the general public, and we'll do that in conjunction with the preparation of the EIR. So it's sort of a scoping meeting as well, so that we'll be able to gather additional comments, information, potential impacts, and so the consultant will have that as we begin preparing the EIR for the project.
So the public process is not being circumvented.
No, absolutely not. In fact, I think CEQA requires a public involvement in the process. Okay. So it's a mandatory thing.
All right, thank you. So with that, included in that, in the October 22nd agenda, we will also be looking at Public Works jobs descriptions, the first reading of the fire code, the Clay Street project, EIR, Highway 50 operational improvements projects, electrical agreement, sign upgrade, housing element, and Measure J report. Holy mackerel, can we start now?
Yeah.
That's going to be a
We're going to have
large
to
meeting.
start
So
Some of those may fall off.
okay, good.
But just so you know.
So with that, at 7:15, because next time will be a longer meeting, we will adjourn. The next regular council meeting will be held on October 22nd, 5 p.m. closed session, 6 p.m. regular session. And with that, good night, Placerville.